New Radio Sports Network and 104.1 WRLU as we get ready for Sturgeon Bay Clippers baseball at Luxemburg-Casco for the opening round of the WIAA baseball tournament. And right now we are joined by the head coach of the Sturgeon Bay Clippers, Mike Propsom. And Coach, before we hit record here, you know, it's easy to forget sometimes that this is actually your first year coaching the Sturgeon Bay Clippers baseball team. And what have been maybe some of the things that you've learned during this opening season for you?
Yeah, I tell you what, it can be a long season, and beginning of the season compared to the end of the season can be a totally different thing. I would say just the amount of reps and the amount of at-bats that it takes to really get into a groove, especially with this spring. So early on, we were struggling a little bit, but we really, I'd say, started to hit our stride a little bit better in the last few weeks.
And how hard of a challenge was that for you as you're trying to kind of implement your thought process with your hitters and your fielders and things like that? And as you mentioned, the spring wasn't very kind to spring sports, but especially baseball and softball.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was a consistent pitching rotation, especially with makeup games, doubleheaders, things of that nature. It's just tough to really get into a groove with a pitching rotation.
Especially when those double headers, like what we covered last week, where you had an inning, you had the 20-minute break, and then you had the second game. I'm sure that really had to have been interesting for you to try to figure out how to manage that game.
Yeah, for sure. And depth of pitching has been a little bit of a challenge for us, so that factors in, of course.
And when you take a look at your record this season, 7-10 overall, 6-3 in conference, you can make those numbers look any way that you want. But as you look at your team, how they're playing heading into the playoffs, what are your thoughts?
Quite honestly, I think we can play with anyone for one or two games. I think it's when we get the consistent doubleheaders in a week where we struggle. We also played some really good competition, especially outside the conference. So, like I said, I'm encouraged that we can play with anybody. I'm looking forward to the game this afternoon.
Who are some of the players that have really stuck out to you this season?
Chris Lodel, he's definitely been a rock for us. He's done a really nice job hitting, pitching, fielding. Emmett Brashnowitz at first base, he's had a really nice year defensively as well as offensively. We've had some other guys step up, too. The Johnson boys, Ben and Chase, they played really some key situations, pitching and hitting. I would say Danny Lodel at shortstop has been really solid for us. And then Kurt Meyer behind the dish, especially hitting as of late. He's come up huge for us in hitting, driving runners in, getting on base. He hit .381 in conference, so he's had a nice year as well.
And then obviously it's not, baseball isn't like football or basketball where you have a wealth of video that you can kind of dissect to prepare for some of these teams here. You had a chance maybe earlier this week to play Luxemburg-Casco, but that game had to get canceled and things like that. But based on maybe the few players that you do know on the Spartans, what are your thoughts about that team, and how do you like your chances?
Yeah, they're very sound. They score a lot of runs. They hit the ball. They have some really good pitchers. I would say we've got to come out with our A game. We've got to play our best ball. We can't make mistakes. It's got to be sound defense, but we really got to put the barrel on the ball and drive some runs. We've struggled a little bit in the last week or so on scoring some runs. But like I said, I believe we can play with anybody, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Fill in the blank time, Coach. Sturgeon Bay leaves Luxemburg-Casco with a victory today if your team is able to do what?
Hit the ball hard. If we put the pressure on the defense, we have a lot of guys who can run. We have a lot of guys who can make plays. We just need to hit the ball hard, put the pressure on the defense, play sound defense, and locate pitches. So it's really not that different from any other game, but when we hit the ball and when we hit it hard, we're tough to beat.
Sturgeon Bay Clippers baseball tonight on 104.1 WRLU, the New Radio Sports Network, as they play Luxemburg-Casco. We've been joined by head coach Mike Propsom. Coach, thanks as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, Tim. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're listening to the New Radio Sports Network.